Well, hey y'all, and welcome to the Hillbilly Chicken Ranch. I am Susan, I'm your hostess, and today we're going to talk about something that is a health benefit and something all natural that you can make in your own kitchen. And I have used this before in my kitchen, and it actually has cleared up a lot of the phlegm that I have been plagued with for years. I'm using it now for the sinus infection. It's great for somebody that has a cough that won't go away. Many uses for this, and it is a red onion and local honey. Now, I'm going to talk about the onion first because there is a thing or antioxidant in all onions. It's called quecertin, and it helps to break up that mucus that you build up in your body, and it is great when you mix it with a raw honey like I'm going to. There's a couple of different ways that you can prepare this. I'm going to talk a little bit about both ways. I'm getting my information about the quecertin and the red onions from WebMD, and I will try to remember to link that in the description box below. So, first of all, onions have many health benefits. And the darker the onion, the more quecertin you're going to get. Research shows that quecertin protects the health in several ways. One study showed that quecertin fights inflammation and boosts the immune system. There are so many other health benefits from eating onions. It has an antibacterial action. They did research in labs, and it showed a wide range of bacteria that are killed with onions. And you can use onion or garlic, either one, in this recipe. I haven't tried the garlic yet. I'm going to, though. It also may reduce cancer, according to WebMD. It has many cancer-fighting properties. It's great for your digestive health. Onions contain a long word, frutal goa shardatus. I can't pronounce it right, y'all, but it's yay long, that acts as prebiotics. And they pass through the small intestine without digestion, and into the large intestine they feed the healthy bacteria. Diseases ranging from diabetes to colon cancer and depression may have been tied to the lack of healthy gut bacteria. It also may prevent osteoporosis, which is a bone disease. And let's see what else it says. It gives the nutrition of the antioxidants, the rich antioxidants in onions. Manganese, vitamin B6, vitamin C, biotin, and copper. So that's all in your onion. And let me get over here and find where my other article went. Okay, there are two schools of thought. Now, the method that I use and have been using is I will take the raw onion and I will slice it and I will put it into a wide mouth mason jar, and then I will cover it with my local raw honey. And then I will cap it and put it in the refrigerator, and you can start using it immediately with this method. After a couple of weeks, up to about a month, you may want to strain the onions out of the syrup and just keep the syrup in the refrigerator, and you can actually use the onion in baked beans or something else, or in a salad. They're perfectly fine to eat. They may not look pretty, but they're perfectly fine to eat. Just to get all that extra benefit out of that onion. And this method will last 6 months in the refrigerator. The other school of thought is to ferment your red onion in the raw honey, and because raw honey contains a naturally occurring yeast and the bacteria needed for fermentation to take place, this would be another way to get more benefits out of the raw red onion and the raw honey. And you would allow that to sit for about a week or so on your counter in a dark place, and then you would strain it and refrigerate it. You want it to start bubbling, and then you would stir it every day. And I do stir mine in the refrigerator every day also, because it being cold, it's going to start to crystallize at the bottom of the jar if you don't stir it in the refrigerator. So just be aware of that. Once all that onion flavonoids and the quecertin and all those things come out of this onion, your syrup's going to be a little bit thinner. It's not going to be as thick as your honey. And it will not taste really, really strong of onion. Just to let you know, your kids will love this, even if they don't like onion. And I understand that you can also substitute the onion with garlic. I have not tried that method, but I wanted to throw that out there, that you can substitute the onion with garlic. So my honey is from Pontotoc, Mississippi. That's about an hour and a half away from us, so about 90 miles, more or less about 90 miles. And the lady there told me that this is honey is produced by the bees, and they have soybean fields and cotton fields all around where they are raising this particular beehive at. And it is an Amish product from Pontotoc, Mississippi. So very good honey. I haven't even tasted this honey, but I'm going to give it a little taste just to see how it goes. So local honey will help with allergies. And I learned this years and years ago when I lived in upstate New York, and we had a local beehive farm that raised all types of honey up in upstate New York. And they had black bears that they had saved from their parents. The mother had died, so they had raised the cubs by hand. And they would do little tricks with the bears, and they had them in a big cage. And my kids really enjoyed going there, and they would have the honey sticks, the little sticks that you would cut open, and there would be honey inside of them, and my kids absolutely loved that. And I noticed that when they would eat that, they weren't getting as sick as often, so that became a treat for a long period of time, as long as I could get to this place to get that local raw honey. And I learned a lot about honey and all the benefits of honey during my interaction with the couple that ran this farm. So it is a natural antibiotic as well. This article the fermentation article that I'm going to tell you about is the healthnutmama.com. I'll try to remember to post a link to that in the description box. But she said at the beginning of this that raw honey contains antioxidants, flavonoids, and polyphenols that help to naturally reduce inflammation in the body. And raw honey has antibacterial, antiviral, antiseptic, and antifungal properties. And it's been used for as long as civilization has existed. And it is a food and a medicine. So, and honey never goes bad, y'all. Despite what you might think, it may crystallize, but it's still perfectly fine. It never goes bad, which is another benefit of having honey on hand. So if you have a jar that has crystallized, you can still use it. Don't throw it away. It's still very much usable. You can actually take that jar and put it into get you some hot water boiling on the stove, turn the stove off, make sure that you can cover your bottle, the top of the pan, not cover the whole jar, but you want the jar submerged part of the way, and let it sit in there and it will liquefy again. Little tip for y'all. So we're going to get this started. I'm talking on and on, I know. So really, really simple recipe. You can use it immediately once you make it to go in the refrigerator. If you're fermenting it, you want to wait at least a week or two before you start using the product. And according to her website, and I'm just going to read this really quick, you're going to slice your onions thin, and you're going to pack your onions tightly into a sterile jar and make sure it is completely dry and sterile. And then you're going to pour the onions over until they are covered, leaving a 1-inch headspace. Close the jar with the lid loosely and set on a plate in a dark room at room temperature for a few days. She doesn't give you an exact amount of time. The honey will start bubbling within a day or two. Every couple of days, screw the lid on tightly and turn the jar upside down and coat the red onions with honey. And don't forget to screw the lid loosely when you're done. You want to make sure it's tight on there when you're doing this, but you want it loose on the jar when it's done. You turn the jar upright, loosen that lid, and continue to ferment for up to a month. So anywhere from 2 weeks to a month. I would be checking it every day. You can go in there and stir it if you want to, and then put your lid back on. And then you're going to transfer the onions to the refrigerator. And you can, at that time, you can strain it. You don't have to leave the onions in there, but you can take those onions and cook with them. So that's the fermentation. My method is you can immediately use it. I leave my onions in my refrigerator for about a month, 2 weeks to a month. And you will notice that the honey is getting thinner. And then you strain it, and you can use those onions to cook with. Don't throw them away. Cook with them so that you get all that good benefit of the quecertin and whatever's left remaining in the red onion into your system, because it's really, really healthy for you. If you don't have a red onion, you can use a dark yellow onion. Just want to specify that. I am going to slice off the end where the green part of the plant would come out, and I'm going to leave the root intact. I'm going to get the rest of this skin off that I have on here. I peeled the majority of this off the camera just to make it easier to get this done for this video. So I'm going to get as much of that off as I can. I don't have a whole lot of it on here. The skin is what keeps the onion from getting salmonella in it, from mishandling and so forth. So onion has a lot of great benefits. And so I've got all that off. And you can see the color on my knife already from this onion. And I'm just going to slice this as thin as I possibly can. And my slices won't be perfect. I'm not using a mandolin. And I'm going to go ahead and start placing this in my jar, because I don't want to lose any of that good color. So we're going to get this all packed into the jar. And it smells really good. The reason I cut towards the root end is you're less likely to tear up by leaving that root in place. Took me many years to learn that trick. I learned it when I was working in the restaurants. So y'all can see I'm getting my onion in there. And you want to be careful slicing if you're doing this by hand. You can use a food processor. And if you use the food processor, you want to make sure you get all the juice and everything of that onion into your jar. And these onions will be really, really good in some baked beans. I promise you that. I'm getting closer to that root. I'm just going to keep slicing until I get pretty much down to the root. And I mean, I'm getting right down to the root. That's all that's left of that onion. So we're going to put all of this in the jar. And I'm using a quart wide mouth because I've got all this onion going in the jar, and then I've got to pour that honey over the top. So we're getting it in there, and I'm pushing it down with my hand. Now, I've already opened the jar, but I do want to taste this because I have never tasted this honey before. And I'm just going to take a small little smidgen. It's a little bit stronger than clover honey. That's Pontotoc honey. And I've got to get this honey down inside that jar. Hang on. So I'm just going to go around the edges like you would when you're canning. And allow that honey to start to seep down in there. And I'm going to continue to fill this jar. So I used 1 large red onion and 1 pint of honey. And it is messy, y'all. I'm not going to lie to you. You're going to make a mess. So you want to get as much of that honey off the outside of your jar as you can. And I'm actually going to rinse this again because there's so much honey on the outside of the jar. But I'm going to go ahead and push again, getting that honey all the way to the bottom of the jar and into the middle. And getting as much honey off my spatula as I possibly can. And we are going to attach the lid. And I'm going to rinse the jar off camera. And I'm just going to dry off my jar. And I'm going to turn it a little bit and hopefully get that onion underneath all that stuff on the bottom. And we have red onion and honey. And I do have a little bit of honey left in my jar. So I'm going to try to get this in here without making a huge mess. There's still a little bit, about a tablespoon or so of honey in there. And I really want to get all of that good honey into this mixture. And I think I've gotten out as much as is going to come out. I'm going to get a tablespoon and I'm going to taste this. Now this is thick because that honey is fresh on there. But I'm going to try to get some of the honey in my spoon. Already getting the benefits. So we're going to let this sit in the refrigerator with the lid on. Stir it every day for 2 to 4 weeks. Then we're going to strain it and reserve the syrup. Put the syrup back in the refrigerator and use the onion and some baked beans or something good. While I'm at it, I'm going to take my elderberry syrup that comes from the Amish community, and I take this every morning. This is actually very tasty. And that's it, folks. We will wait and see how this honey does with this onion. I will be back showing you when I strain it on a future video, and I hope you enjoyed watching this. Go do your research. Don't take my word for it, but do your own research. Find what works for your family. Find things that are natural and an alternative to medication that we may not be able to get in the future. Be blessed, everybody.